All right. Welcome. Welcome to Chess Club. I appreciate you for tuning in, swiping up, and tapping the link. That's a
Oh,
lot of trust you gave that link. Thank you for joining this conversation. Today's conversation is going to be a little serious. No funny business. There's jokes, but a little bit on the serious note. I've had this guest on before. This is Max Mata. Am I pronouncing that last name right?
yeah, it gets scrapped all the time. It's Meta, but
Meta.
yeah,
I had you on the podcast earlier. We were talking about mental health, and can
yeah.
I be honest with you? Since that podcast, I expected like a little bit of residue, beneficial like healing from a man of your stature in the field. And if I'm being completely honest, my mental health has been like balls to the walls since then.
Like good balls to the
Good
walls.
balls to the walls. I've been very
Awesome.
observant, and I've been trying to keep on keeping on. But
That's
you're
good.
here today, and I appreciate you for joining me. You're here today because your father, who also birthed your brother, which I met during my years in school, Louis or Mac. I don't know.
Louis.
He likes to go by his name. Um, you guys' dad is running for mayor of Brooklyn Park.
Yeah. So my dad's running for mayor. He's fiscally conservative. There's seven other people running, or six other people running, that are more on the Democratic side, um, and who are going to raise taxes, um, because um, what they see as important isn't important to my dad, and those important things to the things that are important to my dad are the things that benefit um, a majority of the community. Um, and at the end of the day, Minnesota has a high income tax. People are already losing a bunch of their money once they
Not
get over a
better,
hundred thousand
better yet. No,
dollars.
consider this, and this is like purely what's the word I'm looking for? Like rhetorical, not rhetorical, like observational. I don't know how to say this with the I'm just gonna not be politically correct because that's how I speak best. I'm seeing a lot of people, a lot of churchgoers especially, a lot of people that play by their rules, are friends with the IRS, are friends with the police, like are pro blue or Blue Lives Matter and anti-racism, but we're all like not we, they are leaving Minnesota because they see what's happening. And these are the kind of people that are keeping businesses afloat with consistent capital. So when these people leave, it concerns me as someone that is preferably a long-term resident here. What's
Right.
what is something that we, and by we I mean your father, assuming he's mayor, which I'm optimistic because I just personally like what he did with you guys, and you guys are some smart kids. No exaggerating. What can we do with him to change that, to start pushing it, maybe not in reverse, but maybe in a trajectory where I don't have to leave Minnesota because my church is getting cars broken into every Sunday.
So one of the things that my dad had stopped was the light rail from coming from. It would basically be, uh, a system that would run from Minneapolis all the way up to Brooklyn Park. Actually, the corporation of the Target headquarters, um, that's just north of 610. It would have gone all the way up there. Well, my dad stopped that because if he had allowed that to happen, think about all the crime we'd now be bringing from Minneapolis all the way up here.
Yeah,
Um, and
assuming it like transfers over, that what that means to someone like that thinks the way I do, just another interpretation is a lot of businesses that are surviving on recognizability through like local, like Eric's bike shop, that's going to turn into like a Nike store. That's also businesses leaving, and that's like that's just my own personal take. I'm sorry for interrupting you.
no, yeah, you're good.
Just supporting
So
local business.
yeah, my dad's all about that. He actually wants to build office buildings along 610, along the openings there. Um, because a property's value goes up to the city. If let's say you buy, uh, a square foot of land and you build up, that if I have 4 floors, um, that building is worth less than if I have 10 floors. And so that's why my dad wants to build office buildings, because if you make houses in those spots, then you won't be able to tax that property as much. Um, because they're going to be low income housing.
It's gonna be
Um,
literally housing instead of literally business,
right.
which makes sense.
And businesses are what pay out the most taxes. Right off of 85th by the Taco Bell, right off of 252. My parents have an office building, and their business is run in Brooklyn Park and neighboring cities, where they do all sorts of services, including mental health work. Um, and so a lot of it is Medicare and Medicaid, meaning the government is fronting the money for people to get these services. But my parents are working in to get some private pay mental health services done by trained professionals. And that's where my degree comes into play and where I go into the business. But my parents' business, that land that they have, they pay like $20,000 in taxes a year for that place. And so um, when the taxes go up, it affects these businesses more than it does the residents, because they're just going to be taxed more because it's an office building. Um,
Conducting
and the
business is
office.
always healthy. The way I see it is if there's business, that means somebody out there just has a job and somebody out there is encouraging a job. Business expanding, like turning like land that could be used to house people, and housing people is a very sticky subject, is I think much better utilized by providing jobs for maybe people that need to be housed. It just
Right.
it's logical to me.
Right. And most of the city is housing. I mean, look at us. We're one of the biggest cities in Minnesota. So we have enough residents already. We don't need any more residents. Is what we need is businesses for the residents to be able to work. So they don't have to go into the city, or they don't have to go, out of the city in order to find work. And that's what my dad's all about. He's all about bringing in businesses. Um, he's actually, I mean, if you're a fan of Canes and you're like me, who previously had to drive either to Blaine or all the way to Maple Grove, he's the reason why they're building a Canes off of Zane, right by the McDonald's, the Panera, the Freddy's, the Burger King. There's a Canes that's being developed there. Yep,
You should
yep.
have led with that. Honestly, you're speaking my language now, honestly.
Yeah,
What about the crime? The specifically, like, people are leaving because they feel like mm, they feel like, right, like, I'm just gonna go super niche. Uh a lot of immigrants that came here with me, and we all love this country. We would probably die for the country, but a lot of people like scared of the army, but we would honestly serve because we love this country. It hurts my heart to see those people leaving because of what's happening, but what's happening is because of police mismanagement.
right.
So it all stems from one issue, and it's management of police. So how does your father feel about the police budgets? Is it defund the police, or is it more funds towards the police to improve the police?
Yeah, at the end of the day, you can my dad's stance is you can't defund the police. I mean, that's just silly.
Amen.
Because when you defund the police, it means that now there is less staff that can now be out in the community serving its members. But at the same time, he does believe that there are some bad eggs, and they have to be held accountable. Um, and so, is how he plans on doing that is by having just like you have a canine unit, a drug task force. You have these specialists within the police force. There is no specialist for mental health, and in my experiences, 9 times out of 10, if somebody's getting in trouble with the police, they probably have some sort of mental health issues going on, because you don't see normal people, getting in trouble with the police all that often unless it's just a routine traffic stop. And so what my dad wants to add into the budget is some extra money for the police so that they can have these people on staff so that they can be like, okay, we've got Louis here, and Louis um, has previous offenses, um, where we sent him to the hospital. Okay, he's been to the hospital. Maybe we need to send this staffer out here to see what he needs. Um, Otherwise, the police should be sending him to the hospital so that he can be brought to the psych ward, and they can deal with him, and they can put him on the meds that he needs. Um,
Like
and,
a,
and
I would feel like someone would upon hearing that, the words social worker would pop into their mind. What do you think social worker would mean? Like, I feel like if certain crowds have a stigma towards the word social worker, I don't. I'm not really following. I don't really follow exactly what that figure would look like. The figure that would assist the police officer with the mental health know-how. Don't really know what that figure would look like, but social worker comes to mind and stigma comes to mind when I think of the word social worker, if that makes sense.
yeah. Well, I think social workers are good, but then that comes into the conversation of will the social worker only be going to the scene? You know what I mean? And I don't think that can ever be the case. Um, because let's be honest, cops aren't good at de-escalating. They're just good at putting bullets down range and stopping a situation from escalating.
Or picking up
But
after a situation.
or yeah, like you need somebody to be the de-escalator, and whether that's someone wearing a badge or a social worker, it doesn't really matter. You just need somebody to be trained on scene to handle the situation. Now, if there's a murder suspect on the loose, you're not going to send, that officer who's trained in mental health on the scene, or the social worker on that scene, right? It's going to be specific to what dispatch is saying, and that's how we can help these situations. Is the person talking crazy? Yes, he's all over the place. Okay, well he's probably in mania. Let's get him to the hospital, right? Like there needs to be somebody to be able to mediate between the cops and the mental health individual, because let's be honest, the cops just don't have enough capacity to work with these people. I mean, I think people are asking a lot of police to say that, oh, well, they need mental health training, you know, they need all this extra training. Well, why don't we just find some staffers who are specialists in that? You can't have someone be a canine specialist and also be a specialist in mental health. That's like asking me to be a doctor and a psychologist. Like people just don't do that, and so people just kind of have to have that kind of understanding that we need a specialist in mental health. And under my dad as mayor, that would be added to the budget, and everybody would get behind that because uh, mental health is such an issue within within police engagement.
This is true. Mental health is I think like colossal speed bump, and the way of getting to a place where you can consider yourself lucky to be in America. If you want to take advantage of this place, you gotta have all your ducks in a row. So if you don't have all your ducks in a row, but that costs you your life, that's the issue. I'm glad that
Yeah.
someone's working on solving the issue. Um, maybe another
You know,
question. Sorry.
oh, go ahead.
No, please.
You know how Target in Minneapolis was looted, right?
Right.
Well, when that happened, Target started moving all of their stuff to the Brooklyn Park location. And so what did that do? That brought more business into Brooklyn Park because they added, wider selection, more things. They had more things stocked. So it just led to a little bit extra boom within business for Target in Brooklyn Park. Uh, and they're not going to go anywhere from the Brooklyn Park location because the cops here aren't going to let what's happening um, in Minneapolis and Brooklyn Center happen here. Um,
Uh,
and so,
that does make me feel bad. Imagine getting a coffee like to the last few days since that taser gun fiasco, like that what happened on Saturday. Sunday, was it? The lady that, pulled a taser and now she's saying she wanted to pull a gun or something. I don't know the details, it's a very fresh case. I honestly
Oh, yeah, she pulled her gun but meant to pull a taser and she shot him instead of tasing him.
so she did shoot him?
Yeah.
Is he alive?
No.
He's not alive.
Yeah, so she was probably in the moment getting worked up and she made a mistake. But to me, it's a pretty stupid mistake because you should know where everything on your tool belt is.
Yeah, I think
Um, that's your
that's
job.
yeah, um, you have to take it seriously.
Yeah, so
That I feel
she
like
should
that's for the
lose.
courts. I feel like the, people will riot regardless of how the case, plural, maybe, cases turn out. Um,
Yeah,
what's trippy is, like, getting a coffee and seeing, like, in your white suburban neighborhood, getting a coffee at Starbucks, and you see, like, 10 patrol cars drive by, and then you're driving down the block, you're seeing, like, cops, like, very densely, and that brings security. There's no other way to, like, do I feel like I'm gonna, like, my house is gonna be in danger when I live in an area where I am more likely to, engage with police? Like, me personally, I live right next to a sheriff. I feel as secure as can be, because I can talk to the guy. We don't often because time, but when you know the servants of your area, the protectors, it's a little bit different. But when you see what's happening in Brooklyn Center, you get anxious. You're like, Brooklyn Center is right next door to Brooklyn Park.
right.
Who's managing my police? That's why I am recording this podcast, because I know you, not in person, but we've interacted online or Snapchat mostly. You got a pretty solid head on your shoulders. Your dad probably does too. I just wish that there was a way to see into the future, to see how, um, if you want to call it the other side, quote unquote, how they react to, uh, cut taxes. Not cut taxes. I would rather say ruined plans.
Like how they're gonna raise taxes.
Yeah, I guess how they're gonna react. Are we prepared for, like, multiple moves ahead?
Yeah. Well, one thing I can tell you that's right off the top of my head is something about Boyd Morrison, who is a black veteran who has been awarded with the Purple Heart. That's awesome. That means he saved somebody's life in combat. Awesome. Well, he's running with with the fact that he's a black man and that he's been awarded this Purple Heart, um, and he's served the country. So vote for me so I can serve you once again. Okay, and that's a good message. I like it. Um, but the thing that I don't like is the fact that he had a conversation with my neighbor, um, talking about how uh, America is inherently racist and how if he's voted in that he's gonna give the black people what they deserve. Well, like what does that mean? What does that mean? We're gonna give the
Yeah,
black people what they deserve?
that's
Um,
that's a very risky statement.
yeah, yeah. Does that mean that my taxpayer dollars are gonna go to someone that isn't me? Like I'm not gonna be benefited, and that sounds like the bullshit of the last 8 years that we've had, where it's tax increases that are only helping
The
certain members of
reparations
the community.
discussion.
Yeah, and so
Reparations is tricky. If c- I'm all for reparations because, like, literally slavery, um, period. But I am also aware of a big money printer, so you can't, like, I know that, like, once reparations start, somebody's gonna be, chances are somebody's going to continue paying for reparations. It's not going to be a one time thing out of the pocket of a rich person. It's going to be a
right,
consistent thing out of the pocket of new immigrants,
right, and out of the pockets of working Americans.
working Americans. Yeah. Well, we're all immigrants, aren't we?
Yeah, we all came from somewhere.
Amen.
But I would have to disagree in the sense that I think it's too late for reparations. I mean, the damage has been done. How do we now decide who gets money and who doesn't? What if LeBron James's ancestors, were slaves? Do we now give him a lump sum of cash, even though he's a millionaire? Like, how is this stuff decided, and who's going to pay for it? Does that mean I have to now pay for your reparations, even though I did nothing wrong? You know what I'm saying? So that's like a really hard conversation to even have.
Speaking of hard conversations to have, since we kind of started the episode and then kickstarted the episode a little bit later, we should talk about that first point you made in that first piece, where in Brooklyn Park specifically, the minority is white people,
Yeah.
and there are still prepositions, propositions of something that allegedly benefits the minority community of Brooklyn Park. But if white people are the minority and the legislature is for non-white people specifically, almost, are they really are the intended for minorities even going to the minorities? Let's could you recap that previous idea?
Yeah, so basically in the city of Brooklyn Park, white people are the minority. Um I couldn't tell you what the other ethnic groups are, but I know we've got um, some Asian ethnic, some African American ethnic, uh, and then also some Muslim ethnic. Yeah. Um, and so is what happens is people on some committee go to the city manager and say, you know what, we want a community um, center for this group of people, and they're claiming that this group of people is a minority group. Well, it might be the minority in the United States, but this is the city level. So who's the minority of Brooklyn Park? It's white people. So if anything, the white people should be getting benefited by these minority projects, but they're not. They're the majority ethnic groups are um, are getting benefits. But technically speaking, the white minority, um, I want to. I'd have to look at the data again, but all in all, white people are the minority. Um, if you lumped everyone else together, so
Like they're not like the minority as in like they can't find a job because everybody else is so pressured to include everybody else. They're the minority in sense of like I don't know, to free base the entire sentence. Brooklyn Park is if you come from upper end life, which I don't, but Brooklyn Park is sort of if you're white enough, like the ghetto, but then again, the ghetto is uh, an abstract term, just to be safe.
well, in other words, the ghetto has white people in it, right?
Right.
South
Wow.
of 85th
Groundbreaking,
has
right?
plenty of white people.
Speaking south of 85th, I heard on Game Theory, this YouTube channel, that Taco Bell wants to open this like big drive-through Taco Bell location off 85th. Does your dad know anything about that? Or maybe you know
Um,
anything about that?
they already have a location
Yeah, that's
that's right off of 252. Where would this one be?
52 and 85th. It would be, I think, I don't know for sure. I did see like a screen cap of like a satellite image. It was off of 85th, the new location, but it wasn't the one where it is right now. Basically, the
Okay.
plan is to have like a big drive-through with like tubes that deliver the food. You just pull up, say your order, stay in
Oh
the same
yeah.
spot, and then from up top above you is the kitchen.
Yeah, I don't know anything about that, but that would be a really cool idea.
But Taco Bell, I don't want to quote them, but I think it is confirmed. That's how like they want to do it. Um, I feel like that'll bring a lot of jobs to DoorDash drivers, especially. Maybe the delivery will be smoother handoff. That's for sure. I was just wondering if your dad had any part of that, like with Canes.
No, I don't think he had any plan or
It could have been
any
some
part of
backdoor
that.
stuff that just came to light for publicity sakes. it could have been like long established. I was just curious.
Yeah, because yeah, it's probably just something they've talked about doing, but they haven't talked to the city and gone through the process of building.
All right, I have a question.
Yeah,
Where does your dad believe morality comes from?
like morals, like someone's morals.
Like like the little voice, the compass, whatever you want to call it. I guess it's not a
I
question of
mean,
religion. It's a question of like, do you feel like it's what unifies us?
yeah, I mean, me and my dad aren't. My whole family isn't really all that religious, even though I went to a Catholic private school for 4 years. So we don't really discuss, terms of morality. But I mean, if you had to ask me, I would say that morality comes from being raised right and with good values, because otherwise you are what you learn. Um, and I think that's pretty evident from our other podcast of programming, that you are what you see, what your environment is, and not only the environment but how you perceive it.
What
Because
lenses you were given through
say it again.
the lenses you were given through school?
Is that a statement?
Um, uh, I think so.
I mean, because the lenses that you get from school, I mean, that would just be pretty uniform no matter where you go, because you've got the popular kids, the misfits,
Oh no,
and then
school
groups
like the
around.
experience, not the program.
Oh,
Like I had this teacher, honestly hardly relevant. I had this teacher that really emphasized looking at things through this lens, that lens, and like switching lenses a lot is kind of unhealthy for maintaining a consistent view on things.
well, do you really want to keep a consistent view on things? Because depending on what it is, you could just turn ignorant.
No, a view should be malleable. I think everybody should stay open minded. But at the same time, you can't just stay open without having any concrete cores.
Right. Yeah,
If
your
you don't
core
know that
values should
core,
never be malleable.
how do you know your core value?
It's just something that you operate with every day. It's not something that has to be said out loud, but it's done through action. Like I would say that a core value of mine is loyalty. All the friends that I have, I would die on a cross for them. Um, and that loyalty lives with my actions. When someone's in trouble, I'm there for them. When somebody um, needs to be pulled out of a ditch, even if I don't know them, I'm there for them uh, with my winch on my Jeep. So it's just like your morals stem from a place of experience, and they're enacted uh, sometimes through your voice and what you say to others, but also with your actions, and more so with your actions, because we all have heard the saying that actions speak louder than words.
Yeah, we have heard that saying. I think we're gonna optimistically see a refreshing pace from your father.
Yeah, and it'll be one of tax decreases, because right now all of the taxes for residents increased because property values increased due to the housing market, and which means that if your property is worth more, the city is going to tax you more. Um, that's just kind of how it works. And so, who does the evaluations? I don't know, somebody in the city. Um, but regardless, the one thing that I know that my dad can help with is making sure that the things that are being voted yes on are benefiting everybody and are needs of the community. Like, what's a need of our community? Like I said, we need running water, we need waste management, we need plows and for them to salt the roads, um, and we need, you know, uh,
Disposal amenities, but like the necessary ones.
right, like we need businesses here to help alleviate taxes on residents, and uh, we need mental health workers uh, in the police force. And under my dad, that will most certainly happen. And there will be people staffed with a degree in some sort of mental health, uh, and they'll be working with community members uh, to make sure that they get to the right place, like the hospital. Um, Maybe they don't need to go to the hospital. Maybe they just haven't taken their meds, and their meds are at their apartment, right? So it's working with these individuals to get them what they need, rather than just pointing a gun at them and sending them to jail. Because that's what happened to my brother. They pointed guns at him, sent him to jail. He was in there for 3 days without his medication, and then they just let him loose downtown, and he was wandering around. You know how easy it would have been for some
Someone to
heroin
take an
seller to
advantage.
give him some of his product and see if it's safe. My brother could be dead right now because they failed to assess him properly by sending him to a hospital, and instead they sent him to a jail without any medication. That's just fucking ridiculous, and my dad won't stand for that. It doesn't matter what color you are. Uh, my dad just believes in doing the right thing, no matter who you are. Um, there's actually a black business owner who had a food truck, and the city of Brooklyn Park was telling him, "You can't have a food truck um, parked in your backyard." And so, what did my dad tell him to do? He said, "Throw a hammock in there and call it a what is it called? Not an RV." Like, you know what I'm talking about? Those things that hook up to a truck and like you live in them.
Trailer?
Well, that's not the word for it. Because a trailer you don't live in, right?
Oh, I mean you could, but
Well, anyways,
tailgate?
my dad, no, not tailgate.
I don't know. You're
You're not
talking
helping
about
me
a
here.
taco truck or something. Tailgate in the back. Maybe cook some burgers. Have a brew.
Well, anyways, it was a food truck, and the city was telling him, hey, you can't put this, you can't put this in the back of your yard because the neighbors were complaining about it, and it goes against city ordinance. And so my dad found a workaround for him so that he could keep his business. Otherwise, he would have had to sell the truck. He's got nowhere else to put it. He's a black business owner um, in a small community. Um, so
With an unfortunate roll of the dice in terms of neighbors.
right, right. And so my dad found a workaround for him so that he didn't have to sell off his business, um, and so that you know he he didn't have to sell off his business. I mean, that's pretty cool, and that's what my dad loves doing. He loves to help people.
Did he have to pay any
Um,
penalties for leaving it there?
no, no, because it turned into a motorhome or an RV. Not an RV. It's a trailer that you live in. I can't think of the
It turned from business to like it turned from like a food truck to living quarters.
exactly, and so therefore it met city ordinance, and so because my dad knew the rules, he was able to help him work around it.
That passes the vibe check.
Yeah. So, and I mean, my dad's the kind of guy to step into harm's way or to help someone if he uh, sees someone's car, on the side of 610. Um, he's not the kind of guy to be like, oh, someone else will help them. He because the study of where if there's only two people around, then both of them are likely to help the individual. But if there's 50, everyone else will point fingers and be like, oh, somebody else will help him. You know how that goes. And so, um,
As a
you know,
mayor, who would your dad look to for help? Uh, God heaven forbid if rioting started in Brooklyn Park.
My dad would probably he would probably contact the what is it called?
National Guard.
No, because I don't know if cities. I mean, he would have to ask. I think the governor for that, wouldn't he? Regardless, I'm not quite sure how all that works out. But I know my dad, and he's about law and order. He would not stand for some bullshit happening in his city. People are gonna riot and loot and shit. Oh, best believe like full force is coming at them. And if you're a part of that group, you better get the fuck out of Brooklyn Park or go back home because hell's about to rain loose on people who are doing that shit. Because you have to understand that when we allow something like what Minneapolis did um, here, then people will think that that kind of behavior is acceptable and that there will not be any repercussions. But if you have an iron fist with um, with law and order, then nobody's going to come to your city and riot, will they? But people steal shit all the time now in Minneapolis because look at what happened. They called off the police. They were just able to burn down a precinct. Like nobody did shit, and so that reinforced that behavior by saying, "Oh, look, we just burned down this precinct. Like, fuck you, police. Like, what are you guys gonna do about it? Nothing." So then, what are they doing? They're doing it again.
Yeah, monkey see monkey. Well, that's live ammo right there. I can't even say that.
Yeah, I mean, hey, let's be honest. People are not rioting and looting over what happened um, to George Floyd, to any of these people. People are just making excuses and using that as a reason to go and do dirty shit.
It's like a rated T for teen purge.
Yeah,
Like
I mean,
actually
think
though.
about it. Think about it. Oh, I want a new pair of shoes, and look what's happening down in Minneapolis. Everyone's stealing shit. All right, I'm on my way. You know, free shoes. And this is what's going on in people's heads because with our generation, the work ethic has gone down. You know, people stay at a job for all of a month before they fucking quit without giving 2 weeks leave or 2 weeks notice. So, you know, our work ethic is already pretty bad, and so people are just people are going mad. And not just that, I do have some sympathy for people who've been laid off because of the strict COVID rules, because businesses aren't able to pay their employees, so people are going out of work, um, and hence, you know, what do you expect them to do? They've got nothing better to do, and on top of that, they need money, and perhaps their stimulus check hasn't come, or they don't know how to file for unemployment because they're uneducated. A bunch of different factors can contribute to why these people feel the need to not obey laws and orders.
I wish someone would just like. Is there why isn't racism just illegal?
Because it deals with free will. You cannot control someone's free will.
Like you can't like control like someone choosing like this binary option.
Yeah, and that's why I don't understand the Black Lives Matters protest because there's no actions aside from them trying to control someone else's free will. And let me tell you, when something like burning the Minneapolis precinct happens, a racist is going to become even more racist. You did nothing to try and change that racist. You know what I'm saying? And how can you change a racist? I don't know. Maybe if I had prejudice against black people, the way to change it is by having black people show me that they're just like me. If a black person can show me that they're just like me, then why would I be racist to them? You know what I mean? And I've been lucky to have such experiences with all ethnic groups that I have no prejudice towards any group, and I'm able to not be ignorant, and say, you know, oh, black people are thugs, or you know, Asians are thugs, or you know, whatever it might be, because I've had good experiences. And I've also had bad experiences. You know, I've had bad experiences with white people. I've been robbed by a white person. I've only been robbed once, and it was by a white person. You know what I'm saying? It's like I understand that there's good and bad people regardless of race, but the problem is that racist and people who are prejudiced who have had experiences with certain races that are majority bad, which which gives them ignorance in the sense of, oh, because of their color they're bad, you know. And it goes for all races. You know, there's somebody of every race who has a prejudice that is ignorant.
Yeah, I just hope we're not going to the Giver dystopia. You know,
What's
the
that?
have you read The Giver?
No.
Or maybe I think it's actually a movie too. It would be convenient. It's about this dystopia, parallel universe of everybody has to wake up. When they wake up out the on their way out the door, they get a needle prick. It's a little shot. Keeps all the emotion represented in the movie through color suppressed. And then this kid avoids his shot by like sliding an apple underneath this pin, avoids his shot, starts seeing colors, starts getting emotions, and then he's introduced to the giver. The giver is the main character, I guess. Well, no, support character of the story, but he slowly reveals to this protagonist all the stuff that humanity chose to exclude from your daily shot. So when you get your daily shot, you submit yourself and you don't remember all this stuff that the giver remembers, like war, famine, you know, disgusting like human excrement, like all the bad shit humans do. He's in charge of keeping that in his memory bank, so the guys that take the shot don't have to suffer.
Interesting.
I don't know what made me think of that, but
Yeah, I don't think society's coming to to that,
no, I
but
don't think. I think that's like a watching too many movies kind of
yeah,
fear. Like you can develop any fear along those lines if you just like swim in the big bath of movies on Netflix.
yeah,
Convince
for
yourself
sure.
anything's gonna happen.
You know, the one thing that I do think society is moving towards, that is going to be very hard to fix, is relations between community members and police. Because, like we said earlier, you've got law, you've got the law and order that the police are, um, where it's the police's job to uh, uphold those laws and orders. Um, and you've got community members that don't always follow those rules, whether they're, you know, a true criminal or whether they just have mental health issues. Um, in my eyes, you know, it's going to be a hard fix with all the propaganda from the news where you don't see the good things that cops are doing these days. You just, like, I can't tell you the last time I heard a story in the news that, you know, was pro cop, or like, oh, this cop is a good cop. And that's leading us down a path of ignorance where people think that, you know, all these cops are bad, inherently racist, and if I get pulled over, you know, I'm probably going to die. um, and the thing that I think is scary about that is when you go back to our mental health conversation where we talked about, you know, how you know, a human being is just energy, um, in a physical form, you know, and how your thoughts, you know, tap into the earthly realm of energy and, you know, make you attract things and all that. Maybe you're attracting it upon yourself to die at a traffic stop, you know, and that's what I find scary about a lot of the propaganda that's going out there is low key. It's making people think in a way that it's going to get them killed. Like, could you imagine if I think every single day I'm gonna die, and I tell that to myself, oh, if I get pulled over, I'm gonna die, or the cops are gonna kill me because I'm black, I'm gonna die. Like, these thoughts are told over and over and over again in the form of stories, um, that news outlets decide to tell, and in turn, it's hurting that community more than it is helping when you look at it on an energetical level.
Like recycling the morbidity agenda.
Yeah.
I guess that's a really efficient way of putting it. Recycling the morbidity agenda is like making people uh, keep rolling and rolling down these ditches of, you know, swerving off of the track of, I want to say wealth, but in the way of health. Like happy body, happy mind. That's how I feel. Like your health is your wealth. People swerve out of that because they're bombarded with propaganda.
That is negative towards their towards who they are. And in this specific case of police and community members, I would say that it's affecting the Black community more than anything. Because they're seeing all of this stuff happen in the news, but are they seeing the traffic stop where the Black guy drove away? No, because it wasn't bad. It wasn't bad, right?
Yeah,
So
you
it's
don't
not going to
see
be
the
covered.
success stories.
Right. You didn't see the firefighter that went into the house and saved, 3 Black children. Speaking of, my dad is actually a retired firefighter of Brooklyn Park, and he served part time for 20 years. So um, he was a specialist with the jaws of life, which is something that is used to cut open cars. So when somebody got into a serious car accident, he was sent, and he was also EMS trained, or EMT trained. Sorry, not EMS. Which means that he's got medical expertise to help on scene before an ambulance gets there. Um, and so he saved countless of lives. He's also been in house fires and saved people there. Um, but all around, my dad has been about serving this community and for doing what's right. Um, and right now, what's right is getting mental health staffers on board the police force, and getting our taxes lowered, because there's no need for us to be adding things to the budget that are only affecting a small portion of our community.
Well said. I think seeing somebody that's there's two different vibes you can get from someone just point blank. It's, are they gonna fuck me, or like does it feel like I'm fucking them by letting them become like a career politician? Because there's some people that want to become politicians because they understand how easy it is to just accidentally get corrupted, and there's a lot of opportunity in corruption. There's
Yeah,
also like the other crowd. I don't think every politician's evil. I think there's people with good intentions, people that see a problem, a situation, and instead of like looking at it or commenting about it, just running towards it.
right.
I mean, I think firefighting is a indicative sign of which side your father's on, and that's my final word on the opinion side.
Yeah. So tomorrow is actually the last day to vote. So if you haven't already, you should get out and vote. Whether it's for my dad or not, you should express your opinion on the city level with your vote. Um, because we've got, I think it's close to 80,000 residents, something like that. But in in the mayor's race, you're only going to get maybe like 20,000 votes total. So there's a lot of people who are not partaking, that should be. Um, and if everyone heard that message and went out and voted, it might have a different result in the election.
Yeah,
But
I
city,
think be the change you want to see is a very important. Like there is no better time for that message than literally today when you're hearing this. Be the
right?
change you want to be.
Yeah, and City Hall is right off of 85th. You can look it up on Google Maps. Very easy to get to. Uh, and even if you're not a registered voter, it's really easy. You can go in there and they'll help you get registered. Uh, you'll just need a form of ID, uh, and that's it. But City Hall is open from 6 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. So
So what
if
you're
you
saying is if they don't go out and vote, they want to see the city burn.
yeah, or they want to see their taxes increased. And let me tell you, it does affect apartment residents too, because if the property tax goes up, guess who's paying for it? Not the person who owns the building. It's going to the residents of the apartment in the form of rent. So you do not want your property and taxes to increase because it just means more money out of your pockets and more money uh, for people within your community um, that isn't the majority.
My community is monkeys. And to the monkeys that
Ape
understand the
Nation.
ape nation, to the monkeys that understand the printer go brr, um, like America has been like a lard lately, and it needs to tighten the belt. Um, this podcast personally was my contribution in the fight to tighten the belt and make America lean, not overweight. I
Yeah,
want
I
it to
get what
be
you're saying.
strong. Like nothing, no body shaming. I think there shouldn't be any form of bullying when you're trying to lose weight. Like that has nothing to do with it. But America has some loose weight, and it needs to burn that off. We need to tighten the belts. We don't need to spend more. We need to generate more. Um,
Yeah,
I think like you're. I think we think uh with similar levels of optimism. I don't think we are pessimistic people, but we do see pessimistic things. Um, well, if I was a resident of Brooklyn Park, I'd be voting for the Mata family.
yeah, because I mean, my dad isn't a career politician. He
A
doesn't take any
firefighter.
endorsements. Yeah,
Firefighters are cool. That's it.
yeah.
From me. I'm sorry for interrupting you. I just get passionate about people that save people.
Yeah. There is one more story that I want to be included, and the story goes like this. So, since my dad was on was staffed as a firefighter in the city of Brooklyn Park, he knew the ins and outs of what was going on within the fire department, and he actually got the fire chief to resign, and he did that by calling him out for fraud. So let me tell you what the fire chief was doing. Um, he was taking fire equipment and giving it to his nonprofit in Zimbabwe or some northern African country.
Offshore.
Yep. And that was coming out of taxpayers' pockets, right? And my dad was the only one who knew about it and the only one who was looking into it on the council. And so this is thousands of dollars of taxpayer dollars that are now going to his nonprofit of people that he knew within the Brooklyn Park community. And so when he called him out for it, and he was starting to get in trouble because my dad knew just the right questions to ask him when the fire chief was at the council and they were asking him questions. He knew just the right questions to ask because there's certain things that the fire chief should know, but guess what? He didn't know, and my dad knew he didn't know, so he would phrase the questions in a way where he would be like, "Oh, I don't know." Well, you're the fire chief. You should know these things, right? And so, long story short, he called out the fire chief for the fraud, and the fire chief ended up resigning because if he didn't, there would have been a case opened against him, and it would have ruined his reputation. Uh, so he ended up resigning, and he brought his pawns to the council to grill my dad and call him a bully. And he was on city council at this time, and the mayor actually called for my dad's resignation for calling him out for fraud, which shows you that the mayor was working with this organization, and a few members of the council, including the mayor, actually went with the fire chief on a trip to whatever African country this was, because they were giving them equipment and stuff. And so they were all basically paid for by the fire chief to go on this trip, and it's just a bunch of bullshit. And it just goes to show the kind of shit that's been going on in our city. and the kind of stuff that my dad just doesn't tolerate because it affects taxpayers. He's the taxpayer, right? And so, and he has a business here. It's a multi-million dollar business. So he knows how to run the council like a business. And he's not gonna waste everyone's money like the previous administrations had. So yeah, I just wanted to add in that note that he stopped fraud from happening in the city. And the police chief was just a fucking doorknob. I mean, they did a controlled burn on a house, and the dude fucking melted the side of the neighboring house, and so the city then had to pay for new siding on that house. Um,
I could fix the fire department if you want, bro. Just make houses out of bricks again.
yeah. Well, when you're doing a controlled burn, that's not very effective.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, fire isn't effective on bricks either.
Yeah.
Not either,
So
also, but
yeah, I just thought that was really cool because he sat up there and he just took the shit from all of the pawns, who happened to be of that ethnicity of the group they were helping, in Africa. So they knew what was going on and they knew it was fraudulent, but they didn't care because it was helping their families back home. And so, my dad wasn't standing for it because, uh, if he wants to start a donation, that's great, but don't take from the taxpayers who didn't sign up for that shit.
yeah, absolutely. I pa- pass gratuity to your dad from me.
I will.
Although I don't pay taxes in Brooklyn Park, but
Yeah.
still, corruption should be exposed. If I know of any
Yeah.
corruption, boy, I would definitely. I'm
Yeah. And
stir the talk.
anybody who was paying attention to those meetings, where my dad was getting grilled, for being a quote unquote bully, um, they understand that, you know what, this city needs a bully. We need somebody who's going to call people out for their fraudulent actions and not stand for the bullshit.
Yeah,
So
I think it's disgusting to spend like I don't know when you start talking about other countries like what's up are our tax dollars sponsoring our since we're the country our competition. I don't know. It don't make sense. It looks goofy either which way you look at it. Don't be corrupt.
right.
Do you have any final words before we start to roll it in?
Um,
I have another question I wrote down.
yeah, go ahead.
This one sounds like very corporate jargon on second glance, but whatever. How do you plan to involve residents in the decision making process?
Well, residents can be involved in the decision-making process by electing the proper officials, or let's say that there's two candidates running, and like I don't like either of them. They're both going to be raising my taxes or scummy, whatever it might be. Um, then have somebody that you think is better run. Talk to. I mean, it's 18 to run. I mean, I could run if I wanted to. Um, so have somebody run who you think would do a good job up there. And the other thing is, you can show up to council meetings. You can talk to the city council members. You can talk to the mayor. So by
Information I didn't know. Just a
yeah,
flag. Just to put it out there. I didn't know that. Some of you don't know that too. So you can attend council meetings.
yeah. Actually, you don't even have to go. They're on TV. They're on your local channels. And I can't remember when they meet. I think they meet on Mondays,
It's
for
probably
the city
different for
council
every.
meeting.
Yeah, it's probably different for every city.
Yeah, but I think for Brooklyn Park it's Mondays because I recall watching them on Mondays. Um, but you know, my dad, for example, has a website, Mark Meta for Mayor, um, and on there he's got his cell number, because my dad doesn't really do email. He doesn't want to text back and forth. He wants to call people ask what questions they have, what problems are they having, and he wants to help them in one phone call. Um, and that's how my dad rolls. He likes helping people at one phone call at a time.
Sounds like a man, honestly. That
Yeah,
phone
he's
number
kind of a
thing is
goat.
is literally a personal touch, and if yeah, I don't know. My opinion has been established on this. I'm sure the audience, the listener, has made up their mind on whether or not, you know, binary options. But you have said what you have to offer. I provoked. I tried to provoke questions that maybe someone else has, because like in school, that was the best thing. I was the best at, asking the question that like the three other kids that were really far behind uh couldn't ask because of anxiety or whatever. So I hope this was productive for you, the audience. Um and Max, thank you for giving me the opportunity to empower somebody to make literal change. Like it's actually like refreshing that I'm able to help the community in my eyes.
Yeah, and thanks for having a platform that I can come and talk to, get people to go out and vote for change, because I've seen the same old bullshit happening with tax raises and pointless programs that taxpayers have to pay for when there's only, a basic essential things that the city needs. And when there's problems uh, like with the police, well, okay, how do we tackle this? Oh, it looks like a large portion of people who are being arrested and sent to jail have mental health disorders. So let's get some mental health people staffed. I mean, problems are quite simple to fix when you have the right person on board. And my dad is that person. I mean, he's created me into a really good problem solver. And I'd love to solve problems because of my upbringing. So
Does your dad have a slogan?
yeah, I don't think he does. That's kind of funny that you ask. I should bring that up to him.
We can edit it in if it's anytime soon.
Yeah.
Um, well, shoot, you wanna take this baby to touchdown?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I've got any more final thoughts. Just get to vote
Beautiful.
tomorrow if you can, and
Yeah. And as always, listen harder.
listen harder.
Oh shoot! I hit the wrong red button.